Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to discuss something that is routinely talked about, maybe not talked about as much now with Trump winning the popular vote, but certainly if he would have won the election, the Electoral College, but lost the popular vote, this would have been talked about a ton. But it is still something that Democrats, I'm sure they want, considering Republicans, even with Trump's victory in the popular vote, they still are likely going to struggle to win it, and that's due to a lot of different things. Most obvious one being the immigration influx, and that's why it's so easy for Democrats, especially within the last 20 years, to constantly win the popular vote. But you can see Democratic senators introduce a bill to abolish the Electoral College, elect the president by popular vote. To be honest, I'm not even sure if this news is recent. I mean, I'm not sure what bill they're talking about. This is the thing with X. You get these things, and but I saw this and I did want to talk about this because they do have something potentially in place to try and skirt trying to make an amendment to change it to where the president is elected via the popular vote. Because if you had to make an amendment, there's no way that would get widespread approval, 2/3, and they would get the necessary amount to be able to, from Congress, to be able to change the amendment, make a new amendment, and make it to where the election is decided by just pure popular vote. Now, when it comes to this, I'm sure everyone's already heard all of the arguments. I mean, what I would say with like the whole Electoral College versus the popular vote thing, I do find it kind of funny when you're talking about putting the power into the popular vote. Of course, the idea is, well, everyone has an equal vote. It's more so lifestyle than individual votes because certain areas, especially highly densely populated areas, are going to have a lot more power. And really, they already do have a lot more power in determining the election. It's just scaled and weighed a little bit better in terms of more proportionate based off of land when it comes to the Electoral College. But it's not like South Dakota has 20 electoral votes. You know, it's got like 3 electoral votes. Montana's got like 3. Idaho's got like 4, California's got like 54, but they want to give even more power to California. And it's just kind of funny when you look at the major cities and how terrible they are at electing governors and senators, and it's just constantly electing the same liberal people who won't enforce laws and going down the same rabbit hole. The idea that we would trust them even more to make a decision on the country. And it's not, there are a number of ways to look at the popular vote, and there is a pretty good liberal argument, if we're going to be honest. They would argue that, well, if it was done by the popular vote, they would have won in 2024. And you may say, well, no, they wouldn't have. Trump won the popular vote. But they argue that people in California, New York, even to a lesser degree like New Jersey and Illinois, there's really no reason for a lot of those, some of the liberals to even vote because they know their state is already going to go a certain way. It's very liberal. It's going to go, to the left. They don't have to go out and vote. If it was the just popular vote, it would be different. And then they would argue, well, right now in terms of the popular vote, or excuse me, right now in terms of the Electoral College, you've got the same 6 or 7 swing states being in the news, getting the limelight, getting all the attention, trying to sway, the voters. You've got the candidates visiting the same states over and over again. And with the popular vote, it'd be different, but no, it wouldn't. They would just visit the major population centers in Texas, California, New York, Illinois, Chicago, things like that. So it'd be the exact same thing, just different cities. So I really don't understand that argument either. But when it comes to this, I don't think this is going to happen. But they are trying to circumvent the idea of having to change the amendment or put a new amendment in place because they know it's not going to happen. As you can see, map shows where effort to replace Electoral College stands right now. This was back in October of 2024. And this was, before the election. So the dialogue, I think, is quieted down on the idea. They still want to do it. Liberals do. And if I was a liberal, I would want to do it as well, because for them, it would be easier just in terms of the popular vote, even with Trump winning in 2024. You if you're a liberal, you would rather have it decided by the popular vote. You go back to 2004, that was the last time Republicans won prior to 2024, and they could even argue that the whole idea of, well, people in California, they just don't want to vote, they don't have to vote, they might be liberal, but they're like, what's the point? The state's already ridiculously liberal as it is. So that could be an argument as well. So you can take a look at this. They have to get to 270 electoral votes in terms of the states that want the popular vote to be enacted. And right now you can see this is a very similar like inverse national ID or like ID to vote map where it's all the Republican states that have the voter ID laws in place and none of the Democrat ones. Well, this is the National Popular Vote Compact. It's the most prominent of the Electoral College reform proposals. States would agree to give up their electoral votes to the national winner of the popular vote, even if it doesn't match the outcome of their state. For instance, if a presidential candidate were to lose Colorado, one of the 17 states that have signed the compact, of course, Colorado is a liberal state, but win the national popular vote, Colorado's electors would vote for that candidate. So because Colorado has pledged to join this popular vote compact, let's say, for example, in a realistic scenario, the Democrat wins Colorado but loses the national popular vote, all of the electors would then vote, even with Colorado being a Democrat state, the electors would vote for the Republican. And I guess they have to reach to 270 overall. And you can see the ones that have already done it. They've agreed to it. Washington, Oregon, California, very liberal. New Mexico, Colorado, liberal states. Minnesota, slightly liberal. Illinois. And then really, I mean, no surprises. I guess Maine is a little bit, you think Maine maybe slightly could be considered more of a independent or kind of swing state, although not really. But I don't think they're going to get to 270, but this would be the way they would circumvent having to, make a new amendment, which seems like it's basically impossible to happen. But I did just want to talk about this because this has been something that's been talked about before. The states represent 209 total electoral votes, 61 shy of 270. None of the states currently signed on are Republican dominant states, and I would imagine there's really no reason for Republicans to do this. Again, I know people are like, well, they won the popular vote, but it's not something that they normally win, so you're not going to want to do this. And it just doesn't make sense for you to do this if you're a Republican at all at this point, especially with the immigration and everything, and with the immigrants that come and they normally vote Democrat, the ones that are legal or who knows illegal. I mean, with liberals not wanting these national voter ID laws, it really shines a limelight on just the rampant cheating that's going on. I mean, if there's not cheating, then why won't you sign a national voter ID? It doesn't make any sense. You can't have it both ways. So you don't really want to sign this if you're a Republican, and I don't think any of these Republican states are going to. If they're at 209, they're 61 shy. I don't see really any of these states. I mean, you're 61 electoral votes to try. Yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen because pretty much all these states are either Republican strongholds or they're swing states. The next one, I guess, would be like a New Hampshire. I mean, Michigan went to Trump, but you could argue it's maybe a little bit more liberal. Nevada, you could argue, although it went to Trump. Yeah, so Virginia might be the next one. I guess that would move, but even Virginia seemingly is becoming at least more towards the middle in terms of being a swing state rather than just a Democratic stronghold. So that is just kind of a little thing I wanted to show everyone, and they've been arguing this for a while. This has been something that goes back to mainly they started kicking it up in 2016 after Trump beat Hillary but lost the popular vote, and they thought that potentially could happen in 2024. And this movement, I think, would have a lot more legs if Trump would have won but lost the popular vote. The fact that he won the popular vote, I think, kind of it discourages some liberals. Although the smart ones are still going to want this. If you are a liberal, you would still want this, even though Trump won the popular vote, because it's just one time. But this is something that is, it seems like it's just not going to happen. I mean, they're trying to circumvent the amendments by doing this agreement, and I don't think they're going to be able to get enough states because these are mainly either swing states or Republican states, especially with Florida and Texas swinging more to the right. Honestly, if they were able to get an agreement, I think Republicans would have bigger problems on their hands rather than just the idea of it becoming a popular vote winner, because that would mean like Republican states were voting for this. And if you're a Republican state, why would you vote for it? It just doesn't make any sense. You're giving up a potential advantage. And honestly, the weird thing is the way it works. I mean, I do think based off of how close the swing states were, it technically Harris could have won the Electoral College but lost the popular vote this past year because of how close the swing states are, and the fact that Trump was able to run up huge numbers in Texas and Florida in specific and keep New York closer than expected. And that's really where the exaggeration happens. Like if the Republican is able to be at least semi-competitive in New York and in Illinois, and he's able to run up a solid margin in Texas, because a lot of this, the imbalance happened from Texas getting really close, but it was still Republican. and liberals would still run up ridiculous numbers in California, New York, and Illinois. Well, now they're really not doing it. They're still running up crazy numbers in California, not so much in New York. And so that's going to shift things a little bit. It's not going to shift the Electoral College at all. It's not like Republicans are going to win New York, but it is going to shift the popular vote in terms of the way it's done. So you could be looking at 2028 if Republicans continue to enjoy a nice advantage in Florida and Texas, and also are able to get the margins a little bit closer in California and New York and also Illinois. There would be paths for the Democrat to win the Electoral College while losing the popular vote, which would be pretty funny. Actually, it wouldn't be funny. I would not want a Democrat to win, but it would just because they're trying to argue for the whole idea of eliminating the Electoral College. But either way, I don't think this is going to happen. But this is like circumventing the amendment that says the election is decided by the Electoral College, and dispersing all of the electoral votes and things like that, and putting it in the hands of just one vote equals one vote, which really, if you understand population density, is not true at all, right? Because people that live in these huge populated areas, they all vote the exact same way. We understand that. And so if you have a certain segment of people, this is what it really comes down to with the idea of the Electoral College. You're trying to give different lifestyles a voice rather than just have all these idiots who own like, one bedroom apartments and don't have a car and don't really have any stake. And you give them all the power, and because that's what this would be doing. It'd be giving the major cities all of the power because that's where all the liberal people are. And these people just vote for the worst things. That's why their states are terrible. That's why people are leaving Illinois in droves. Look at Illinois. It's losing 2 electoral votes. Look at California. It's losing 4 electoral votes. Look at New York. It's losing 4 electoral votes as well. Liberalism is just not popular in the United States. And one of the easiest ways to tell is through the population, shifts and the migration. And nobody wants to be with these liberal people. I mean, how do you lose 4 electoral votes in like 2 cycles? It's just total ineptness, and it's just horrible taxes, and people have just no rights. It's just a horrible way to live. But we should have those people decide our elections, give them more power. See how dumb that is. And they still already have a lot of power. They get 50 electoral votes or whatever. That should be enough power for them. But they're so power hungry, they want more. And then they say one vote equals one vote. When you've got these, people just, living, it's like Shanghai, China, densely populated like sardines. It's like, oh, there's so much diversity. Well, then why do they have all the same political opinion if there's all this diversity? There's diversity in terms of ethnicity, but there's not diversity in terms of political opinion. That's the liberal game plan 101. They all think the exact same way. It's daddy government. It's live with nothing. I mean, that's their lifestyle. That's the thing I was thinking about yesterday. Their lifestyle truly is we own nothing and we're happy. We don't want cars. We hate cars. We think they're terrible for the environment. We don't own any land. We live in an apartment on the 16th floor. It's 1 bedroom. Our dog can't go out anywhere. There's nowhere for him to run, but that's because we don't, we believe in liberalism. And I mean, we own nothing and we're happy, and we want to have the right to destroy the country through elections, and 1 vote equals 1 vote, but we all think the exact same way. And so we're going to have power over people because there's more of us, and you can fit 5,000 people into a single apartment building in San Francisco. And see, this is the crap that we're talking about. So I don't think anything like this will happen. But it's something to look at that I did want to discuss, the National Popular Vote Compact, because this is something that people talk about, and they've been bringing it up, and they got to 200 electoral votes. They've got to get to 270. It's not going to happen. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.